The Merchant's Daughter and the Hidden Prince. Lin Wanqing had a reputation in Suzhou, sharp as a needle, stubborn as an ox, and stubbornly clinging to a tiny silk shop that her late parents had left her. Her uncle had tried 3 times to seize the shop, calling her a girl who should be married off instead of meddling in men's business. But each time, Wanqing had outwitted him. Once by exposing his embezzlement of family funds, once by winning over the town's most influential tailor, and once by simply locking the shop and sitting on the threshold for 3 days straight, refusing to move until he backed down. Word spread, and people whispered that Lin Wanqing was too unruly to wed. But she didn't care. The shop was her life, and she'd fought too hard to let anyone take it. That is, until a man in a dark blue robe with a silver badge arrived at her door one afternoon. "Miss Lin," he said, bowing formally, "my master offers 500 taels of silver a month. Marry him, and you shall be his legal wife." Wanqing was measuring silk bolts when she looked up, raising an eyebrow. "Your master must be blind. Haven't you heard? I'm a troublemaker who chases away relatives and talks back to elders." The man's expression didn't change. "My master is Prince Jing, Xiao Jingyuan. He was injured in a hunting accident 3 years ago. His legs are weak, and he rarely leaves the mansion. The royal court is full of wolves. He needs a wife who can stand her ground, manage his household, and keep prying eyes away. You are perfect." Wanqing set down her measuring tape. Prince Jing, she'd heard of him. The emperor's youngest son, once favored, now sidelined after his accident. Rumors said he was gentle to a fault, even a little dull, and that his mansion was run by his scheming half-sister, Princess Ling, who hoped to take over his estates. 500 taels a month, she repeated, calculating. With that money, she could expand her shop, pay back the debts her uncle had left her, and never have to worry about being chased out of her home again. And if I say yes, what do I have to do besides stand my ground? Manage the household accounts, keep Princess Ling's people in line, and pretend to be a dutiful wife. My master will not trouble you. He only asks for peace." Wanqing smiled. "Peace is boring, but 500 taels? I'll make him the most peaceful prince in the empire." Chapter 1. The journey to the capital took 7 days. When Wanqing stepped into Prince Jing's mansion, she was greeted by a courtyard that looked half abandoned. Weeds growing in the flower beds, dust on the railings, and a handful of servants who stared at her like she was an intruder. "Miss Lin," a thin, nervous maid said, curtsying, "I'm Lotus. I'll show you to your chambers." "First, show me the accounts," Wanqing said, dropping her luggage on the stone steps. "And gather all the head servants, steward, cook, gardener, everyone. I want to meet them before I see His Highness." Lotus's eyes widened. "But the prince is waiting for you in the main hall." "He can wait a little longer," Wanqing said firmly. "A mansion that's falling apart won't fix itself. Go." By the time Wanqing reached the main hall, she'd already uncovered 3 problems. The steward had been skimming silver from the grocery budget, the cook was stealing rice and selling it to nearby shops, and the gardener had been bribed by Princess Ling to let the gardens die. She marched into the hall with a ledger in hand, ready to report, only to stop short when she saw Prince Jing. He was sitting in a wooden wheelchair, dressed in a pale gray robe. His hair was tied back with a simple jade pin, and his face was pale, but his eyes were dark and clear, like deep pools. When he saw her, he smiled softly, a faint dimple appearing on his cheek. "Miss Lin," he said, his voice warm, "I've been told you've been busy." "I'm here to work, Your Highness," Wanqing said, setting the ledger on the table. "Your mansion is being robbed blind. The steward owes you 80 taels, the cook 30, and the gardener, well, he's more loyal to your sister than to you." Prince Jing's smile faded. "I know, but I didn't want to make waves." "Making waves is the only way to keep your ship afloat," Wanqing said, pulling out a quill. "Sign here. Fire the 3 of them. I'll hire new people by tomorrow, ones who won't steal from you." He looked at her for a long moment, then picked up the quill and signed his name. "Very well. I trust you." That night, Wanqing settled into her chambers, adjacent to Prince Jing's, as per the agreement. She'd just finished counting her first month's silver when there was a soft knock on the door. It was Prince Jing. He was leaning on a crutch, his face slightly flushed. "I couldn't sleep. May I come in?" Wanqing stepped aside. Your legs, shouldn't you be resting? I wanted to thank you, he said, sitting down on the edge of the bed. The servants have been walking all over me for months. My father is busy with state affairs. My mother passed away years ago, and Ling, she's always thought I'm useless. Wanqing handed him a cup of tea. You're not useless. You just didn't want to fight. But sometimes fighting is easier than letting people walk over you. He smiled. You speak like someone who's fought a lot. I have, she said. My parents died when I was 16. My uncle tried to take my shop. My cousins called me a beggar, and the town gossip said I'd end up alone. But I didn't. I fought back. Prince Jing's eyes softened. I wish I had your courage. You do, Wanqing said. You just haven't used it yet. Over the next few weeks, Wanqing transformed the mansion. She hired honest servants from the countryside, negotiated better prices with suppliers, and even turned the overgrown garden into a small vegetable patch to save money on greens, she told Prince Jing. He watched her with amusement, often sitting in his wheelchair by the garden, reading while she directed the servants. One afternoon, Princess Ling arrived unannounced. She was dressed in a bright pink robe, her hair adorned with pearls, and she sneered the moment she saw Wanqing digging in the dirt. Really, brother? She said, looking down her nose at Wanqing. You married a peasant girl who plays in the mud? How embarrassing. Wanqing stood up, wiping her hands on her apron. Princess Ling, I'm not a peasant, I'm a merchant, and this mud will feed your brother's household for 3 months. Unlike your pearls, which are pretty but useless. Princess Ling's face turned red. How dare you speak to me like that? You're nothing but a gold digger, marrying my brother for his title and silver. 500 taels a month, to be exact, Wanqing said, smiling. And I earn every penny. Your brother's mansion was a mess before I arrived. Now we're saving 200 taels a month. What have you done for him lately, besides gossip about his wife? Prince Jing, who'd been quiet until then, spoke up. Ling, that's enough. Wanqing is my wife, and I'm happy with her. Princess Ling huffed. You're just being foolish. Mark my words. She'll leave you the moment someone richer comes along. After she left, Wanqing turned to Prince Jing. Don't listen to her. I'm not going anywhere. He looked at her, his eyes serious. I know, but do you ever wish you'd married someone else? Someone who isn't a useless prince? Wanqing sat down next to him. No, you're kind and you trust me. That's more than most men would give me. Besides, she added, grinning, 500 taels is hard to come by. He laughed, a real hearty laugh that made his eyes crinkle. You're honest, at least. Chapter 2. A month later, the emperor held a spring banquet at the palace. Princess Ling had spread rumors that Wanqing was uncultured and couldn't even hold a teacup properly. So Wanqing spent 3 nights practicing etiquette with the mansion's elderly maid, Madame Chen. You must curtsy like this, Madame Chen said, demonstrating, and never speak unless spoken to. And whatever you do, don't argue with the nobles. They'll call you rude. Wanqing nodded, but she had no intention of keeping quiet. If someone tried to insult her, she'd hit back, politely, of course. On the night of the banquet, Wanqing wore a simple blue silk dress with a jade pendant Prince Jing had given her. He'd insisted on pushing her wheelchair himself. He'd taken to using it more often in public to keep up appearances, and whispered in her ear as they entered the palace hall. Don't worry, I'll protect you. I don't need protection, Wanqing whispered back. But thanks. The hall was filled with nobles, princes, dukes, ladies in silks and jewels. All eyes turned to them as they entered. Wanqing heard whispers. That's the merchant's daughter? Look at her dress, so plain. Poor Prince Jing, stuck with her. She ignored them, sitting up straight as Prince Jing wheeled her to their seats. Just as they sat down, a man in a red robe approached. Duke Wei, a powerful noble who was allied with Princess Ling's husband. Prince Jing, he said, nodding coldly. And this must be your wife. I've heard quite a bit about you, Miss Lin. They say you run a little shop in Suzhou, selling cheap silk to commoners. Wanqing smiled. Yes, your grace. My shop sells silk that's affordable and well-made. Unlike some nobles, who pay 10 times the price for silk that falls apart after one wash. I hear your wife bought a bolt of red silk last month from my old competitor. Did it tear at her daughter's birthday party? Duke Wei's face darkened. How dare you? Just making conversation, Wanqing said, sipping her tea. After all, a good merchant always knows her customers, even the ones who buy overpriced shoddy goods. Oh, Prince Jing choked on his tea. Duke Wei stormed off, and Wanqing grinned at him. What? He started it. You're going to get us into trouble, he said, but there was no anger in his voice, only amusement. The trouble came later, when the emperor asked Wanqing to dance. It was a test. Everyone knew she was a commoner, and they expected her to refuse or to make a fool of herself. But Wanqing had danced at village festivals as a child, and Madame Chen had taught her the basics of court dance. She stood up, curtsying to the emperor. Your Majesty, I'm not a skilled dancer, but I'll do my best. As the music started, she moved, slowly at first, then gaining confidence. She didn't have the grace of the noble ladies, but her movements were lively and genuine, and the emperor smiled as he watched. Prince Jing sat in his wheelchair, his eyes never leaving her. When the dance ended, the hall erupted in applause. The emperor laughed. Well done, Lin Wanqing. You're a breath of fresh air in this stuffy palace. Princess Ling, sitting across the hall, looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. On the way back to the mansion, Prince Jing took Wanqing's hand. You were amazing. I just didn't want to let you down, she said. You never could, he said softly. That night, Wanqing couldn't sleep. She slipped out of her room and found Prince Jing sitting in the courtyard, looking up at the moon. He wasn't in his wheelchair, he was standing, leaning against the railing. Wanqing froze. Your legs, you can walk? Prince Jing turned around, his face pale. I can walk short distances. Not well, but yes. Why didn't you tell me? He sighed. Because I needed people to think I'm weak. The emperor's brothers, they want the throne. If they think I'm useless, they won't see me as a threat. Ling and her husband are working with the third prince. If they knew I could walk, they'd try to have me killed. Wanqing walked over to him. So this whole weak prince act is a disguise. Yes, he said. I've been gathering allies in secret, generals, scholars, merchants. I'm waiting for the right time to expose the third prince's treason. But I needed someone to manage the mansion, to keep Ling busy, to be my wife, even if it's pretend. He looked at her, his eyes full of regret. I'm sorry I lied to you. If you want to leave. I'm not leaving, Wanqing said. You think I care if you can walk or not? I care that you trusted me enough to tell me the truth. And besides, she added, now that I know you're not useless, I can help you more. I have contacts all over the country, merchants, tailors, innkeepers. They can pass messages for you. They can help you gather evidence against the third prince. Prince Jing's eyes widened. You do that? Of course, Wanqing said. You're my husband. Even if it started as a business deal, I care about you. He pulled her into his arms. I care about you too, Wanqing, more than I thought possible. Chapter 3. Over the next 6 months, Wanqing became Prince Jing's secret ally. She used her merchant contacts to pass messages between his allies, used the mansion's accounts to launder money for his cause without anyone noticing, and even trained the female servants in self-defense in case Princess Ling sends someone to cause trouble, she told Prince Jing. Prince Jing, in turn, taught her about court politics, about which nobles to trust and which to avoid. They spent their nights planning, their days pretending to be a quiet, unassuming couple, and somewhere along the way, the pretense faded. They held hands when they walked in the garden. They shared meals together. They laughed at each other's jokes. Wanqing's uncle showed up in the capital one day, demanding money. You're a princess now, he shouted, grabbing her arm. You owe me. If it weren't for me, you'd be dead on the streets. Wanqing shook him off. You tried to steal my shop. You left me with nothing. I don't owe you a penny. Her uncle started yelling, attracting a crowd. Prince Jing arrived just then, his face cold. Let go of my wife, the uncle sneered. Who are you to tell me, a cripple who can't even stand up straight? In an instant, Prince Jing stepped forward. No crutch, no wheelchair. He stood tall, his eyes sharp with anger. I am Prince Jing of the Great Xie Empire, and if you touch my wife again, I'll have you thrown in prison for treason. The uncle's face turned white. He stumbled back, then ran away. The crowd stared. Wanqing smiled. Told you making waves is easier. Prince Jing laughed, taking her hand. Told you I'd protect you. That afternoon, Princess Ling arrived, furious. You can walk. You've been lying this whole time. Yes, Prince Jing said. sitting down in his wheelchair for show, Wanqing knew. And now that you know, you should tell your husband to stop working with the third prince, because when I expose their treason, he'll be executed, and you'll lose everything. Princess Ling paled. You wouldn't dare. I would, he said. And Wanqing will help me. She has evidence, letters, receipts, witness statements, all gathered through her merchant contacts. Princess Ling ran out of the mansion, screaming. A week later, the third prince tried to stage a coup. He gathered his soldiers outside the palace, but Prince Jing was ready. His allies, generals who'd been waiting for his signal, marched into the capital, and Wanqing's contacts had already blocked the third prince's supply lines. The coup failed. The third prince was arrested, and Princess Ling and her husband were exiled. The emperor, relieved that his youngest son had saved the empire, named Prince Jing crown prince. That night, the palace held a celebration. Wanqing stood next to Prince Jing, now dressed in a golden crown and royal robes. The emperor raised his cup. To my son, Prince Jing, and his brave wife, who helped save our empire. Lin Wanqing, I hereby name you crown princess, with all the honors and privileges that come with the title. Wanqing curtsied. Thank you, Your Majesty. After the celebration, they returned to the mansion, now the crown prince's residence. Wanqing sat down on the garden bench, smiling. Who would have thought, a merchant's daughter from Suzhou becoming crown princess? Prince Jing sat next to her, taking her hand. Who would have thought, a weak prince falling in love with a stubborn, sharp-tongued merchant? Wanqing laughed. So what now? We rule the empire together? Together, he said, and I'll keep my promise. 500 taels a month. No, wait, he added, grinning. Now that I'm crown prince, I can give you 5,000 taels a month. Wanqing's eyes lit up. Really? Really, he said, and you can expand your silk shop, make it the biggest in the empire. I'll even let you sell silk to the palace. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I don't need 5,000 taels. I just need you. He kissed her forehead. You have me, forever. Chapter 4. A year later, Wanqing's silk shop was the most famous in the empire. She'd opened branches in every major city, and her silk was worn by nobles and commoners alike. She still visited the original shop in Suzhou every few months, and she'd hired her old childhood friend, Mei, to run it. Prince Jing, now Crown Prince Xiao Jingyuan, was busy with state affairs, but he always made time for her. They'd built a small villa outside the capital where they could escape the palace for a few days. The villa had a large garden where Wanqing grew vegetables, just like she had in the prince's mansion, and Prince Jing practiced swordsmanship now that he no longer had to pretend to be weak. One afternoon, they were sitting in the garden, watching the sunset. Wanqing was sewing a silk scarf, and Prince Jing was reading a book. Remember when you first arrived at the mansion? He said, looking up. You marched in with a ledger and fired half the servants. Wanqing laughed. Remember when you told me you couldn't walk? I thought you were a liar. I was a liar, he said. But I'm glad I lied, because if I hadn't, I never would have met you. She set down her sewing. Me too. I thought marrying you was just a business deal. But now, you're my family. He took her hand. You're my family too. And I have a surprise for you. He pulled out a small box and opened it. Inside was a jade hairpin, simple but elegant. I want to marry you again. Properly, not as a deal, not as a disguise, as my wife, because I love you. Wanqing's eyes filled with tears. Yes, of course yes. They were married again a month later in a small ceremony at the villa. Only their closest friends and allies were there, Madame Chen, Mei, the generals who'd helped Prince Jing, and the emperor and empress. After the ceremony, Wanqing stood on the villa's balcony, looking out at the garden. Prince Jing came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Happy? He asked. Very, she said. Though I still think 5,000 taels a month is too much. He laughed. Then donate some to the poor, or expand your shop, or buy more jade hairpins. I don't care, just be happy. She turned around, kissing him. I am happy, because I have you. And as the sun set over the villa, casting golden light over the garden, Wanqing knew that she'd found more than just a husband, more than just wealth or status. She'd found a partner, someone who loved her for who she was, stubbornness and all. Someone who'd fought with her, laughed with her, and built a life with her. Years later, when Prince Jing became emperor and Wang Qing became empress, she still ran her silk shop, though now it was managed by Mei's daughter. She still argued with nobles who thought women shouldn't meddle in business, still grew vegetables in the palace garden, still made Emperor Xiao Jingyuan laugh with her sharp tongue and quick wit. And whenever someone asked her how a merchant's daughter had become empress, she'd smile and say, "I fought for what I wanted, and I was lucky enough to find someone who fought with me." The end.